Welcome back to the next section of Traefik Training. In this section, we're going to cover the operations labs, the command line interface where we're going to enable Traefik's health check, and also we enable the ping health endpoint to see exactly the status of Traefik itself. We're also going to extend Traefik a bit further. So we're going to put the dashboards and API in secure mode. We're going to ensure everything is behind TLS, and we're going to deploy this all on DigitalOcean, because we're going to use our DNS challenge to make sure we can get TLS certificates. So let's head over to the lab in our repo 56K Cloud Traefik Training. And if we head down to number 7, Traefik Operations, here is our lab. And you can see we're enabling the health check with command line and ping. The reason these two are together, the Traefik health check depends on ping to work. So the health check actually checks ping and returns the result, either okay or not okay. Then the Docker health check actually uses the Traefik health check as well. So you can see the health check in Docker Compose. We actually have this test command right here that runs the health check within Docker. So what this essentially does is running and ensuring that Traefik is healthy. And if it's not healthy, then it fails. It retries up to 3 times, and it continues trying until it fails. And we get a status back in Docker saying if the Traefik container is healthy or not. We can also see the start period here. So we give it a kind of leeway how long we think Traefik's going to start before it starts serving traffic. And then we can see the test, it starts running accordingly. Now in the API configuration, the API has been enabled this entire time, the dashboard, but then secure by default is false. We're going to actually, currently it is true because we've been running it in true mode this entire time, and we want to change it to false to make it default, or in other words, we want to make it secure. So let's head over to our command line. And again, I am running this all in DigitalOcean because we want to generate Let's Encrypt certificates with a DNS challenge. So we've included that also. First, let's look at our Traefik configuration in the Traefik YAML. Again, here's the API, the dashboard is true, and insecure is false. Now you can either delete this line, you can leave it as false, you can comment it out, however you want to do it, as long as it's false. Previously it was true. We also enabled the health check, so you can see here ping, that's also enabled. So that's providing us the health check as far as when we go to the URL, my domain /ping, it returns a status code either 200 or 44, but we hope it's 200. So that's all in this file. Let's take a look at our Docker Compose file, Docker Compose CLI.yaml. And here there's a lot of changes that we've made. So we're combining a lot of the previous labs into this section. And you can see we are mounting section 4's Let's Encrypt folder, because previously we had some certificates in there. So we're going to reuse these certificates again. Here's the health check we mentioned previously. So the health check is part of the Docker Compose under the Traefik section. And this essentially runs the Traefik health checks every 10 seconds, waits 2 seconds, and then runs it again. So it's and retries 3 times before it finally fails. We can also put some restarts in there. So we can say also, if the container fails or goes into fail mode, we can actually restart the container. The environment, we're actually adding our DigitalOcean token once again, because we want to generate Let's Encrypt certificates. And then down here, the labels of Traefik itself, we're enabling Traefik true. The router dashboard rule host, we need to update this with our domain. So we are going to put in, web wrench. So, and then first time we see path prefix, we're actually appending the path prefix to the end of our URL. So now we can actually have /API, which maps to the API service, or /dashboard, which also matches the dashboard service. So that's exactly how we add path prefixes. The dashboard service, you can see API at internal. We're going to use the web secure entry point because we want to use 443. We're going to use TLS. Then we are enabling TLS equals true. We're using the cert resolver, my resolver, which is a default one used in section 4. We are enabling basic authentication on this as well. So we actually have the Traefik user, password training, and then we're also determining what port we should be listening on for our service. That's a lot of information. We combine a lot of different things from the previous labs in this one file. So let's take a look. We actually deploy this and see how it looks. Docker stack deploy -c Traefik. And it's up and running now. So it is starting. Let's head over to our browser now. All right, so let's open WebWrench. So HTTPS and WebWrench. We're using a private tab, so the username password is prompted. And ensure you put a trailing slash on the end because that's the full path to the dashboard. Now, that's the first time we see the dashboard actually prompt us for username and password. So the username is Traefik, password is training. And there you go. We have a username password set on our dashboard now. We actually have Let's Encrypt running, and you can see we have a certificate provided by Let's Encrypt. And we are running the dashboard secure mode because we no longer have a port 8080 here. We're using the root of the website or the host name. And we can also look at the API as well now that we're logged in. So API, HTTP services, for example. There's the HTTP, also API working behind the WebWrench domain, also using secure mode, also using Let's Encrypt. So very, very cool. Now we have this part running. Let's head back to our command line and take a look at how the health check is actually working. So if we do Docker PS, let's make this a bit smaller so we can see it. You can see the status, and it's still wrapping, but trust me here. The status is up 3 minutes healthy. And now Traefik is the only container with a healthy status. You don't see a status on the other ones. That's because we had the new health check installed. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the stack quickly. We're going to wait a second for it to shut down. Okay, now that it's shut down, we can deploy it again. But right when it deploys, we want to make sure we check Docker PS really quick because we want to see the health change from the health check. So Docker, and there you go. So now, right when it runs, I'm going to run the watch Docker PS command, and then you can see it. So watch Docker PS. So let's just wait for the command to finish. There you go. And now it's watching, and you can see Traefik is up. Its health is starting, so it's waiting that initial period of time for it to actually start. And then once we get an OK within, so that was 10 seconds, you can see once we hit 10 seconds, it said, okay, the container's running, we're able to hit the endpoint and everything's happy, so it's healthy. Now, if we actually want to see the endpoint, we can actually go back here. It's still using port 8080, but this again can be mapped to a different entry point if you want. And it's running HTTP. And there you go. So the health status is okay. So webwrench.8080/ping. We're not using HTTPS because sometimes our monitoring systems don't like that, but you can always put it behind HTTPS if you want to change entry points. But now this is available from outside, and then monitoring systems are watching this URL to basically keep an eye on traffic. And then the other side, Docker is watching this side to see the status of the container. And if it goes unhealthy at any time, and if it remains unhealthy, then Docker, you can configure Docker to either restart the container or redeploy. And that really adds the automation aspect into Docker Swarm. Well, that is it for the operations lab. We learned a ton. We configured basically everything. So the command line health check, we enabled the ping endpoint, we enabled TLS, we enabled secure mode for the dashboard and the API. We deployed everything and we took a look at how everything worked. All right, join me in the next section.